To set the scene for our scribe, we are gathered in 2040 to share a meal. We are each host and guest. When we last met together, in August 2022, it was wet, green and cool. Here in Dookie in 2040, it is hot. Far too hot. It is 45 degrees Celsius in September and it hasn't rained in a year. Daily we hear of other climate catastrophes around the world. Despite all this, we can see and feel, we can actually touch hopeful outcomes from our collective work. We have been planning for this drought for a long time. Our gardens are lush. We have greenery inside and outside. Local farms, especially those growing Indigenous crops, are thriving. Our houses and public spaces are cool and shady, and desalination plants feed our towns and farms. AI is helping us to regulate our water usage. Our towns are hives of cultural activity, drawing visitors from all around and building new relationships all the time. The stories, food and art we share at this dinner are shared for the benefit of our past selves, so that we might see how the changes we have brought about in our lives, changes in food production and food cultures, and our efforts in collectively participating, have shaped a more positive future than the one we might have experienced otherwise. We participate because we must. This future story is offered to illuminate any number of innumerable paths we might take together.
It's always good to get a record of the failures.
We first meet together in March 2022. We imagine meeting at regular intervals for a while, moving through decades with every passing month, learning from each other what we need to move forward. We plan to talk and make our way into a future we would be happy to live in. But really, we have no idea where or how that future exists. One of many futures, any one of those futures, could be the one we find our way to. On the whole, the future looks like a place we don't want to be. We decide to have dinner together 18 years from now to share food and stories. We plan for a ritual that will get us to the place we want to be. The dinner will be in about 6 months, but also 18 years from now. We really need to get to know each other first.
And just take a moment to just check in with your body. Feel the earth underneath your feet. Just listen to the sounds around us. You can hear some birds maybe. Just notice it.
Here, what is noticeable is that there is a mutual respect. The kind of discussions that we're having could only happen with connection and respect.
Still, the issue is that it's like you said, the demand, the population of the world is growing all the time, and you can't turn your back on feeding all those people. Back then, our cultural relationship and relationship back to the land was also still based on numbers.
Yes.
That can be sustainable to be able to exist that way.
Yeah.
But try to apply that now today. Not going to happen.
Yeah.
So you've got to get a reality check.
Yeah.
If there's no possibility of avoiding our climate disaster, we thought, how can we think of positive ways to be active, to adapt, to learn to live differently in the world? It's weird in 2040, looking back to footage and records and media from 2022, to think that that wasn't a common thought in our lives then. It wasn't as intuitive as it is now. Empathy and reciprocity with the animal, mineral and plant world we humans are part of.
We're finally reversing soil degradation, mostly through the use of perennial plants and fungus that live in the soil and build the mycorrhizal networks that can hold moisture in the soil, which is why even in this terrible, terrible drought, we've got plants alive out there because of that soil. because the soil now holds so much moisture than it did, even 10 years ago. Yeah, so that gives us drought resilience. Demonstration of how our soils are being degraded. Every year they are more degraded, and there will come a point where they can no longer grow things. You know, this is real, it's happening. There are huge areas of the world that are desertified. You know, we all know this, but we don't really want to do anything about it.
We have needed to grieve the things we have lost, the experiences we won't get back, and the species that are dying.
We make our world. Because for me, dealing with climate grief, which is as much as anything about the loss of the plants and animals, the only way I can deal with that is to get out there and actually do something to fight it and make a difference. So that kind of hope through action stuff. Yeah. Up to us. Cheers.
The care we show the species we live with on this planet nourishes us. We know that now. It helps us to thrive and gives us an opportunity to respect ourselves.
Aboriginal existence in culture is it's in balance, and it's just been more in depth and aware of the environment, what it provides for you, and being appreciative of it. It's not that you're not using it, or we didn't use it, but it's just being respectful. You know, take emu eggs. We wouldn't take all the emu eggs. We'd only take 2 out of that 6 in the clutch, so that they're always going to be there.
This care was missing from many of our industrialised societies for a long, long time. In its place, we had cruel and caustic practices of taking more than we needed and treating other species with disdain, and treating the planet as disposable, a disposable mindset. Learning from the enduring knowledge of Indigenous cultures, we have once again started to show care. We consume with care, we tread with care, we tread lightly on the living country. What do we learn when we earn the things we have through nurturing, growing and making? We learn patience, that's for sure. We learn that the bowl we eat from is made over a duration of time, shaped while chatting together, the clay dried in the baking summer sun or in a kiln. It's so hot outside, the clay happily scorches in the open air. The processes of making, our food, objects, utensils, clothes, is one we have to make time for, when we switch off notifications and sit together to share words and skills.
That if we're entering a kind of semi-performative space, I always think that costume is something that gets you into the space.
Humans have always made things, yes, to be practical, but also to play, to shape and weave and paint.
Oh, that's so cute.
We need to make time for play, a non-efficient time that feeds us.
It's quite a vital part of being human, that thing of playing and connecting to place.
We reached 2040 when we said we would. It turns out it was very hot, it was dry, and the climate was more scary than ever. There was cool air in the building where we met though, and the atmosphere among the group was almost celebratory. We had made it together. We had adapted our way into new ways of living. We also picked up new companions on the journey. When we met for our meal together, we made room for the people we knew and those we hadn't met yet.
I am alien arriving in this store. I got this store in 2040. And I found a blog which is written by Kayoko. in 2022, and the blog introduced that her mother's recipe.
Sayoka's mother's recipe.
Yes. And I was trying to make that kind of food using the local materials, local ingredients. The yellow one is made by potato, which is Erica potato. It's local one.
Oh my gosh, that's beautiful.
Thank you. It's made by butter and soy sauce and also dashi from bonito and also the taste from mushrooms, I think.
That's really nice.
So all this was written in Sayoko's blog.
Yes.
That's great. Isn't that great? We're finding all this great information about the past from blogs.
Yeah.
So if we're looking at, what did we do to be able to still do, a good dinner and have plentiful food, maybe we stored water, maybe we stored certain things, maybe we dried them and freezed them, or, maybe we did stuff like that to have, plentiful at the dinner.
Yeah. I also brought wattle seed. And it came from what you said the other day about in a drought, you're dependent on the things you've set aside and stored from years before. In our vessels. And of course, wattle seed is incredibly durable. There are stories about people ploughing up paddocks after 80 years, that have been grazed for 80 years, and wattle seed germinates. So even in the ground, it stays alive and viable for perhaps as long as 80 years. So stored properly, it could last for hundreds, thousands of years. I'm seriously stressed by what is going on out there. The soil is so dead, the environment is so dead, so many chemicals are poured on all the time. And that is like in southeastern Australia, that is the majority land use. It's
cropping.
Cropping, yes. Yeah. Even here, you could direct soy wattle seed into a dead wood paddock, and it would bring rhizobial bacteria back and start building soil really quickly. And it's perennial, it's drought tolerant, and it produces food, and you can get edible sap from golden wattles as well.
Sappings are important. Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's highly nutritious. I wanted folks to have a try and see if anyone had any good ideas about how to cook them.
Same thing about the connection, about the strength and resilience of what happens when we all work together, and what we can push through and where we're connected.
I like the pushing through as like the fruiting body of the mycelium kind of pushing through.
Incredibly strong.
Incredibly strong.
Horse dung fungus cracking through bitumen.
Yeah.
Footpaths.
Yeah.
And yet it's all about cooperation and connection, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is what mycorrhizal fungi does.
Yep.
And the amount we've learned, and particularly it's obviously for thousands of years, kind of cultural references to fungi have been in our knowledge systems, but it really feels like in the last couple of decades that it's gained much more traction as a way of thinking, that mushroom thinking as part of a network, that kind of growing things in kind of devastated places or in damaged places and seeing this rejuvenation come about through that.
The results have been amazing, haven't they?
They have, yeah.
When we all stopped using artificial fertilisers and put perennial plants back in and rebuilt the fungal networks in the soil, it just completely changed farming.
Yeah.
Made it cheap. There were no inputs. You didn't need tractors. The soil became uncompacted. It now holds huge amounts of moisture. And it sustains us simply and beautifully.
Yeah, 25 years of thousands of sheep around me every day. It's a business, it's an operation, it's just way out of everybody's hands really, except for a few. And, it's organised that way that it's
and we've
convenient
seen
and cheap.
Yeah, we've seen how removed people can be from it, like that there's, the extent of cruelty to animals that goes on. We've seen.
And we're respecting our animals a lot more than we used to. So in days gone by, our main meal has been meat, 3 veg, roast, shepherd's pie made out of the roast lamb during the day, ground up, made into a pie. So that's 2 meals for the day with meat involved. Used to go to the pub and you'd have a parma, and the lump of chicken would be like that, and then you'd have a bit of veg. Well, these days we're sort of appreciating the fact that these animals are more worthy, with more respect, and also our climate hasn't been up to cope. The change that we've all seen, of course, has been the fact that meat now is a real treat. Appreciate the fact that the amount of work, the environmental cost that's occurred to get that little bit of meat, and we're changing our diet so there's a lot more plant-based material and just a little bit of meat. So we're down to about 10% or 5% of the meal will be a animal product. So if you'd all like to have your little treat.
Make your way to the end of the table.
As in a chocolate back in the day.
Fantastic.
Or an after dinner mint, we're having a little bit of meat instead.
It's so fantastic being here. I can't believe the change that's happened so quickly. Like, back in 2022, we would have thought that this future where, we're living in this lovely, cool building. We've all got buildings that harvest the water that does come when it comes. We haven't had any rain for a year, but we've all got the tanks under our houses are full of water.
Heaps of energy from all the solar.
It's incredible. I love it. I'd say cheers to that.
Cheers.
Or cheers. Cheers.
To set the scene for our scribe, we are gathered in 2040 to share a meal. We are gathered here to exercise our right as many communities brought together in this place to contribute our expertise and our very specific knowledges to building and strengthening our resilience into the future. Institutions, governments, universities, books, articles are vital and give us rich knowledge, but without including the knowledge at this table, we are limiting our ability to understand and to act. And we will be unprepared for our precarious climate futures. We have a right and responsibility to shape our resilience and feed into policies. This is what we think we need. We exercise our responsibilities here.
Yes, I'd like to talk about the kale that we have on the table, which was grown outside in the wicking beds right here when we all started. And it's so lovely to have
for
that.
18 years.
Yeah.
They're still growing.
Collecting
Self-defense.
that's really nice.
Yeah, exactly. Very quality archives.
Beautiful.
Be eaten off by a farmed animal trying to keep the weeds out of it and rejuvenate it and get rid of the older
Dead
matter. So you get, it's a bit like burning it. It's a good system.
Special breed that can't get it undone.
I'm going for quite a while now. I'm traveling mine in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I must be.
Congratulations, everyone.
That was very special. And I'm just, Thank you to Liz and Santi for everything, of course, for this extraordinary setting and set design. It really felt like we were entering a different space, and I'm so chuffed with how everyone kept up the 2040 better than I did. And this is an extraordinary spread, and I think it's testament to the positive energy that we're putting out into the future.
And thank you, Suzie, for bringing art to our regional area, to our local university. It's fantastic to have that, and thank you everyone for participating who came along. It's been great. Thank you.
Thanks,
Come over this way.
Ready to display
Yeah, they don't want the clay down there because they've gone and put sand there.
Woo! Oh, that's so good. Hey.